What's up, everybody? Welcome out to our 6 o'clock live stream. We are hanging out tonight. The show title was Tips and Appreciation, and that does not mean tipping us and appreciating us. It's from a perspective of, do you actually tip your tattoo artist?
Do you remember the cute little signs at tattoo shops years ago? Tipping is not a city in China.
No.
Yeah.
Man, look, it occurred to me that there are people out there that might not tip their tattoo artists, which is odd. It's a service industry. It's something that I never even would have thought about not tipping somebody. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, there's definitely cultures that don't tip, right?
Yeah, like so in the UK, for example, they do not have a tipping culture. Their service, whatever, is built into the bill. I think there might be some other places that, like Spain, maybe might have the same kind of thing. But here in the United States, it is a tipping culture.
Is Sarah online yet?
Yeah, she's here. So
I grew up in upstate New York, right, in a vacation area, Lake George, New York, and you would get a lot of people like from Montreal, and it was generally understood that the French Canadians from Montreal
don't tip.
They do not tip.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now,
because so many of my family, like in the summertime, they'd all work as they'd all make extra money as servers and.
Mm-hmm. Do you? Now you're a tattoo artist, so obviously you accept tips. But when you go to get tattooed, like, what do you normally tip?
What do I normally tip?
I don't know if we got to necessarily go with percentage, but
I usually tell them after I leave, I'm like, hey, listen, make sure to look left and right before you cross the street.
All right.
No. Just a normal tattoo, $20 to $50.
Okay. So, like, if it was a $300, $400, $500 tattoo, what would you tip?
$500 tattoo?
Yeah.
Well, I would get a $500 tattoo in 3 different settings. There's 3 different sittings.
Okay.
Because I only sit for 2 hours at a time. So yeah, they'd probably get $100.
Okay.
$30 a time, something like that.
I mean, that's I think that's about right for me. Like, if it's a $300-$400 tattoo, I usually tip like $100.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's about right.
And it also has to do with like the. It also has to do with the relationship with the tattooer.
Okay.
So, like, I often give the example of the Owen Jensen tiger that I have on the back of my leg. You know, stellar work, really nice work, done in a really nice shop. The dude didn't talk, didn't say anything, didn't tell a dirty joke, nothing. So he got $20.
There's something weird going on real quick. I just want to mention it. Sarah's in, but for whatever reason...
Was Sarah mad at me?
No. Our live stream is actually showing up as unlisted, which is weird. So while we're talking, I'm going to go ahead and try to flip that. Let's go ahead and make that a public.
So Sarah, I found I was at a park yesterday, and there were like 5 vultures, you know, like in the middle of this field. And I was like, I should just go over there and scoop up that spine and send it up to Sarah.
Dude, I found a huge, I was at the King of Prussia Mall today.
Uh-huh.
And, dude, I saw 2 of the biggest goddamn crows I've ever seen sitting on top of the building, and they were just, like, staring down at these people that were waiting for the bus. And I'm thinking to myself, that looks ominous.
So I was out in New Jersey one time, like in Burlington County, which is like a pretty rural county, and I drove by this house, and on the peak of the roof, there were 4 or 5 turkey vultures, and I was like, somebody's dog is dead in the backyard, and they were just sitting up there, waiting.
Yeah, that's something's awry when they're hanging. totally weird that.
And it was creepy, dude.
Yeah, it's totally weird that this thing got listed as on whatever. But it's fixed now. We got people popping in, which is cool, and we'll go back to. Sarah's gonna have to hear our tipping story again, but it's cool. All good.
Do you tip Sarah? Because you're from the other side of Canada, right?
No, she's from like Nova Scotia, so she's East Coast Canada.
Oh, but she's not.
She's from where the Trailer Park Boys are from.
And we all know how Buck feels about the Trailer Park Boys.
Dude, I love it. Love it. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in, welcome in. We got Sailor Eddie hanging out with us. Dude, happy Sunday. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Chris Hawkins, Luz, got our moderator Nikki, OG Sarah, Stephen Street. So let's get into the topic now that we got people rolling in and go back to what we were talking about. Sarah, sorry you got to hear this again. But we decided to call this show tonight Tips and Appreciation. And we'll get to the appreciation part, but it has nothing to do with me and Justin. It's not about tipping us, appreciating us. It's about the artists. And my thought was, and the only reason I brought this up was, I don't know, I found an article earlier today, or it might have been yesterday, I don't know, my days bleed together, where they were talking about the tipping culture in tattooing. And I know that me personally, like I get a $300-400 tattoo, I'm tipping like $100. Like I know, let's say if I know the guy is going to charge me $400 for a tattoo, I'm automatically pulling out $500 because I'm going to throw a $100 tip in. But that's just me. Like I like to tip service industry people. Like I'll go to, hey, thank you, Sarah, for the $5 super chat.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'm the type of person, if I go to a restaurant and I have good service, I will tip
25%.
Yeah, all day long.
Yeah.
I mean, I will even tip good even if the service is shitty.
So
I won't like tip as good, but I'll still tip good because look, man, you never know if the person's having a bad day or whatever.
Is it because you were involved in because you worked in bars? So is it like that you understand that getting a good tip is like?
No, I just understand what it's like to, well, maybe, but I think I also understand what it's like to maybe work a job that you don't like, but you got to hustle to make cash. And maybe you're not having a good day. Like sometimes it's hard. I know you would know this, and Sailor Eddie would know this. You're talking about guys that tattoo all the time. You might not be having the greatest day, but you got to put the shine on and roll into work and do what you got to do, right? Like you got to schmooze the customer. You're part of that customer service industry.
So what I was trying to think of before is like if I'm getting a big tattoo from somebody, more so than tipping them, I'll probably like call ahead and say, do you want anything? Or I'll like be a couple guys I've taken out afterward and been like, I don't drink personally, but I brought like guys when I used to get tattooed in Philly, I'd bring them to like tattooed moms, buy them a couple beers just to like say like, thank you. You know what I mean?
So, I mean, I'm notorious for that, where, like, I'll actually call the tattoo artist or text them, usually, if we're, like, on a personal level.
Right.
And be like, hey, man, you need something to drink, something to snack, because I got to stop and grab my own snacks and drinks or whatever, because I'm prepped for it. So I might as well buy you something while I'm in there. Yeah,
so more so than, because I get tattooed by my friends now more than anybody else.
Yeah.
So more so than tipping now.
Hell, dude, I went to go interview Sailor Eddie, and I took him coffee.
There you go.
You know
that
what I mean?
goes a long way.
Yeah, dude, it's extending that courtesy, man, and I think that's sometimes in this day and age, we've lost a little bit of the courtesy thing.
So one time, I had a really shitty experience. This dude tattooed me twice, and he did a piece of his own flash art on my back. Like a pinup girl with an old lead sled, and like a lowered car, right? So after I was like, "Yo, man, you go out to Tattooed Moms, I get you a beer, right?" So I'm drinking my soda or whatever. He's drinking his beer, and he looks at me and he goes, I don't tattoo for favors." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I'm not that dude anymore that does big tattoos just because someone's a friend of mine. I don't tattoo on the cheap anymore." And I was just like, fuck you, man. I just brought you out here out of respect because you've tattooed me twice.
Yeah.
And I don't want nothing from you.
That's kind of messed up. Now, Sailor Eddie just made a really
Should I say his name?
No, don't. Sailor Eddie just had a really, really good.
Can Sailor Eddie guess who I'm talking about?
It's maybe. But he just said, I would rather get a great shout out on Yelp or any social media or send me a client. Times are tough. Keep our prices fair.
Yeah.
So to you, from you, would that mean more to you than a tip?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Fat Cracker just said, I always bring them food, always tip. See, I think to me, man, that kind of goes a long way where you're, if you're showing kindness and you're showing that appreciation, it's going to come back in return.
Dude, and this is going to sound really corny, right? But most times now when I go to get tattooed, it's really like I'm going to visit a friend of mine. And we just happen to be doing some tattooing.
He said Don Juan?
No.
Close, though.
Very close. Very close.
Yeah, so Sarah said I often tip with a gift or something I've made, which is cool.
Yeah.
Look, dude, especially here, like you're into your little tchotchke stuff. Fat Cracker said the better the tattoo and effort, the better the tip. So, yeah, man, I mean, I think that this is something that, matter of fact, he's in here. So this is one of those things that Sailor Eddie talked about was like, taking years to learn how to kid glove the customers and make them feel at home and make them feel like they're a part of something and stuff like that. And I feel like that is something that not only tattoo shops should probably learn, not all, obviously, but I think that the industry itself, service industry itself, needs to kind of go back to that because it's funny, man. I was watching this girl. Her name's Hannah Ricketts. She's on YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube now because I'm trying to get ideas on editing and stuff like that.
Ricketts?
Yeah, she's
like that thing that you get. You get the Ricketts.
Yeah, but she's
Rough name.
from London, and she used to do a lot of vlogs where she would go to like Harrods and like expensive stores and stuff like that just to be like, this is crazy that they're charging this, right? And then she started doing a thing where she was going to restaurants that people were like, hey, you should go check this out. So she would kind of do a review, but not in a foodie type of way, just as a casual customer. And then she also decided to do hotels. So she went to Nobu in London, which is, they're a famous restaurant, right? Well, they started opening up hotels as well. And she was saying that she's like, I've been to like high-end, holy shit hotels in London, and she's already reviewed them. Claridge's, places like that are like high-end. She went to Nobu.
You mean like the Best Western?
Yeah, the Premier Inn, Motel 6. But they treated her like complete dog shit. And she was like, I've never, ever talked bad about anywhere doing these. And she's like, I'm sorry, but I have to say this. She's like, all the people talked down to her to the point where even the guy that was serving her food at the restaurant was like kind of talking down to her. And she asked them to remove the service. They called it like a service industry tip. It's their built-in tip that they put into your bill. And she asked them to remove that. She's like, I have not done that in at least 10 years. And I felt like I needed to do that because that's how bad it was. So where I'm going with this is if your business is not doing as well from a tattoo shop perspective, we know times are tough. We know that money's tight right now. And maybe there's some shops out there that maybe need to look at how they treated customers in the past.
So there is a curve of maturity when it comes to being a tattooer. Right? There's the early days where you're worried that nothing that you're doing is any good. But then there's this thing I see tattooers go through that I went through myself where people would come in with ideas and I would be like, well, that's not going to work and that's not good and that's going to look like shit.
Instead
And
of having a discussion with them saying, hey, like, this is a great idea, but if we change it,
right,
maybe, or
like this whole attitude of I know better about tattooing than you do because this is what I do for a living, and not with almost no respect. And then I think as you grow as a tattooer, you grow out of that.
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You grow out of
Or you maybe is it, or you get a little bit more comfort where you could say, hey, look, this isn't really going to work, and here's why. Maybe if we make these changes.
yeah.
So maybe it's not that per se. It's just a look, I am feeling a little bit better about how I interact.
But see,
or,
yeah, wanting to respect the customer really is a sign of a mature tattooer,
right on.
right? Like, so I used to work in Seaside. I worked across from this other shop, and there was a dude that worked there that was doing this like graffiti style work that no one else was doing.
Right.
I mean, he was all over the magazines. He was like, back in the day when you used to be able to send your flash into the magazines, his stuff was always in the flash sections, and he was known for never showing up on time. It was like a standing joke, and people put up with it because he had such like a pretty amazing reputation,
Right.
and it was like his moment to be like that.
Right.
But you fast forward a couple years, man, and people weren't putting up with that shit anymore. Like, it wasn't like, oh, it's funny, I came here at noon and he didn't show up till 3. They might have put up with that when he was like Mr. Flavor of the moment tattooer, but yeah, people don't put up with that for that long.
So there's also a reason that we're going down this path today. And, I think that there's been times where I feel like Justin and I have been pretty neutral. And, there's the old saying that sex sells and so does controversy. Well, neither one of us are sexy enough to sell sex.
Speak for yourself, bro.
And
You know how much money I'm making on OF?
is and as far as controversy goes, I'm like Sweden, dude. I don't even want to get involved with it. And Justin and I had a long conversation this week where we talked about something that was said during the interview with Jason Sweet, where Justin kind of felt like it rang true to him, and it kind of hit a chord. And, we were saying, do you think some of the younger generation is given pushback because they've never had the opportunity to have somebody sit down and bridge the gap, or to be nice to them? And not nice to them, I don't think you got to kiss anybody's ass in this day and age. But there's a difference between talking to someone and trying to give them props and ideas and guidance, and talking at someone. So Justin and I felt like maybe we could try to be the guys that are going to try to bridge the gap a little bit. To be the guys that are going to be like, hey, man, look, this didn't work for this reason, and this reason. Maybe try to go this route. And I don't know what this is going to lead into. I don't know how the direction's going to go. But I feel like if we start to focus on appreciating some of the new artists that are coming out, shining a little light on them, because, look, they're not going away. They're here to stay. As long as they're making money, they're here to stay. Is this going to be a beautiful disaster? Probably, because everything I do is a shit show. But hey,
So
live and learn.
I was talking to a West Coast guy on Instagram who's been tattooing, I think, since the 70s or the 80s. The 70s, I think. Right? And I really wanted to ask him, like, listen, man, what was it like for you? And I don't know him that well, so I wasn't able to ask the question. But I wanted to ask him, what was it like for you in 1995 when you'd been tattooing for 20 years already, and my generation shows up, like with our hardcore music and our shaved heads and our black T-shirts? Like, what was it like when we showed up in droves?
Dude, think about
what were you guys thinking? Like, what were Tommy Knapp and Jerry Reds thinking when Jason and all them guys showed up at Body Graphics?
right.
I mean, I got a pretty good idea what they were thinking, and I know Sailor Eddie definitely knows what they were thinking.
Yeah, like I think of it this way, man, and it's ironic because I ran into this guy who's a chef who was friends with Ronnie DeLacqua's son, who had passed away 10 years ago or so. But think of those old timers, right? Like Ronnie and those guys probably still listening to like Frank Sinatra and like mob type music, you know what I mean? And then you got punk rockers coming in the door and they're like, spiky hair and listening to, Sex
Black Flag,
Pistols and
yeah.
Black Flag and, you know what I mean? Like they were probably like, yo, hey. In my mind, that's how I'm envisioning it because like I just from conversations I've had with Ronnie, I could be like, hey, oh, you know what I mean? Like, so I get it.
So what I heard about Eddie, right, about Philadelphia Eddie, is that one day, I don't know how true this is, but I've heard it from people that I trust, is one day he came into the shop, he did a tribal band and a Celtic cross. And after finishing the Celtic cross, he just set his machines down and was like, I'm done.
Okay.
Like
he didn't want to do it no more.
Yeah, or he just...
Like it wasn't, what he was doing wasn't what he signed up for.
Yeah, it wasn't, he wasn't doing Jonesy Flash anymore. He wasn't doing the bread and butter designs that he came up with.
And my whole thing is I feel like that if you like traditional tattoos, you're not going to like realism. If you like realism, you're not going to like traditional. That seems kind of very cut and dry, but I think you kind of know where I'm going with it is to say that this sucks. Oh, that's old shit. That shit sucks. No, that's just not the style that you like.
But the thing with a guy like Eddie is that when he was doing the Jonesy Flash, right? That wasn't traditional. That was modern, cutting edge tattooing.
Right. I get what you're saying, but
I only think it's people that lack maturity, man. I would never get a photorealistic piece tattooed on me ever.
okay.
I have zero interest. But I see photorealistic tattooing all the time where I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. So Bill O'Connell, there you go, man. I mean, this is a perfect example of service industry stuff. I tipped a guy who put tires on my car the other day. Gave him a little gas money for his Harley, and he was riding. I'm that guy too. You know what I mean? Like I had a guy one time that plugged my tire because I was like, I didn't really want to spend money on brand new tires at the time. Bill O'Connell with the $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. And he didn't want to charge me. But I was already expecting to pay like, $20, $25. So I just gave him the 20 anyway. I was like, here, dude, then go buy yourself some lunch or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because
I got in trouble for tipping one time, though.
I think that I understand also what it's like to be not appreciated.
I really got in trouble one time. I was at my aunt's funeral, and I wanted to tip one of the guys to put me right up next to the casket.
Yeah, man, like I think that I understand what it's...
Hey, give me a spot up by the body.
Yeah. What it's like to not be, okay, I'll give you an example, and this is outside of the bar industry, but back when I was doing sound for cover bands, okay, before I started like touring, doing like real sound is how I put it, which is wrong, which doesn't. Anyway, another story. It was kind of like a thing where if the band had a good night or whatever, they would kind of give you a tip, man. I never expected it, but...
You mean like a tip or like throw you an 8-ball?
No, because I didn't do that. I
mean, not you, but I mean,
no,
industry standard.
I mean, like actual, like throw you a couple extra some cash. And so man, like I kind of I guess know what it's like to be in the position of, man, we had a killer night, and then you don't get a tip, and then you're like, did I do something wrong? You know what I mean? I can understand how that would make things awkward. I also did sound for a band that was on... I'm going to tell the story. I'll tell the story.
Tell the story.
They were on... MTV used to have this cover band, Cover Wars show.
Mm-hmm.
And I wound up actually doing sound for them one night. I was actually going to take over doing sound for them. And I got given a PA that was like pieced together last minute. Typically, when you get a PA to take out on the road, you want to go through everything. You got to, like, signal chain. Make sure everything's working, man. Like, so this way nothing's broken in the signal chain and you don't get there and then, like, nothing works, right? Well, that's what happened. And I had dude, you want to talk about a shit show of a night, man? Like, half the PA worked. I couldn't get it to work. It was bad. Like, I was sweating bullets going, what the F, man? Well, needless to say, the band actually treated me like shit. I had to do sound for them the next night. Now, you want to talk about awkward? It was down in Sea Isle City. I was supposed to drive the truck down there with all the band gear, stay at their apartment that they pay for in Sea Isle City, do the gig for them again the next night. On the way down, after the gig was over, I called the guy that owned the sound company, and I told him what happened. I said, dude, you first off, you gave me a PA that was half put together. It was a mess. I was trying to get everything together. There was no sound check. That was not my fault. That was the venue's fault. And I'm like, it was bad, dude. And he's like, really? And they treated you like that? And I said, yeah. Well, needless to say, the next day, I mixed sound like it was, the last thing I was ever going to do. And I had a fucking amazing night mixing sound. And I almost said, the person came up and was like, man, you really do know how to mix. Awesome, dude. That's awesome. At the end of the night, I left all their shit on the stage, packed up, and drove back to Philly. Because that's what the owner told me to do.
Yep.
He was like, they want to act like asshole prima donnas? We're going to treat them like that. Dude, yeah, bad. So I know what it's like to be not treated well in a service industry. Got sidetracked. Anyway.
So something I really like even more than getting tipped, and this is going to sound so cheesy. So in my shop, I'm tattooing. We have the show where I tattoo. I just clear my station out. But right across from where we sit is a big full-length mirror. So I'll watch people on the low look in the mirror when they look at their tattoos. And when I see them, like, every now and then you'll see somebody who'll be like, no, look at this tattoo I just got. Like,
then you're...
That feels good.
Yeah, I got you.
That feels good. Because you have that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Fat Cracker said, I also bring them shirts, mostly T-shirts. The last T-shirt I gave my tattooer was Tattoos Are Stupid, and I told him I'll get him one, but only if he wears it to the shop. Chris Hawkins says, if you don't like traditional, you're just wrong. Laugh out loud. Fat Cracker said, Justin, I would have joined your OnlyFans, but your prices are too high.
You're our target demographic.
You're looking for big burly men?
Yeah.
The Bears?
Yeah.
Jesus, dude. Chris Hawkins says, anyone that works for a living appreciates anyone else doing the same work. 100%, dude. I could definitely appreciate that. Do us a favor, guys. Like and share the stream for us. Maybe to push it out to some other people. We do appreciate it. It helps out the channel. Do you want to get into some of the appreciation stuff that we were talking about?
Sure.
So, Justin and I figured that I had actually planned on having more than one person tonight, but my phone decided it was going to die tonight as I was trying to get pictures together.
Right after Buck's like, you should go with AT&T, Just. I've never had any trouble with AT&T.
It's my phone, though, man. I have no issues with them. It's the phone, man. The phone just, for whatever reason,
Where'd you get the phone from?
AT&T. I'm just saying, though, like, I'm rough on phones. I mean, I'll admit it. I fumble my phone a lot. I mean, that's why I have a really, good case for my phone. But for whatever reason, my phone's like resetting itself. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to make phone calls or get texts. I want to go do some stuff. It just kept resetting. So I'll be running up to AT&T tomorrow to get either a new phone or whatever. But we wanted to showcase maybe a new artist or two every week that Justin and I don't know about. And I found one, and it is actually Realism Tattoos.
Well, obviously it's not any good then.
I would say that that is not the case, man, because this guy's stuff is pretty freaking amazing. The guy's name is Luigi Manzi, Mansi, and here is one of the tattoos that I pulled.
Is that Darth Vader?
Yeah, the last screenshot I was trying to pull was actually his homepage for his Instagram, so everybody could see it. So, pretty amazing work, man. He actually puts the pictures up, but he also has a video of him doing it. So there's to try to get around that this isn't doctored look. But
so I'll be honest, bro. That was my first thought with that. But if he's doing videos to prove that that's the work he did,
yeah.
I mean, I thought that was a doctored photo.
You can actually see the right here where the machine is in there. So like like I said, I was trying to get, and then my phone crapped. Here's another cool one that he did that was I thought was pretty amazing. And again, this is Luigi Mansa, maybe. He's from Italy. Pretty cool black and gray work with some color splashed in there, which I don't know if isn't that supposed to be kind of faux pas where if you're doing black and gray, you're not supposed to put color pops?
Whatever people want to do.
Right, okay. Another cool one. I thought that was really cool. I don't know if that's like Poseidon or Zeus or whatever, but that's really awesome. Really cool work, man. Then we got this. Oh, wrong one.
What was that?
It was one I was going to send you. It was like, look closely, forgive me, but does anyone else see Jesus?
Let me see. Ah, yeah, there he is right there.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, right? Next one, Groot. So this is, what was that, Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever? Yoda. Again, you could actually see on the top right here where he's putting the white highlights in. Now, look, I don't know longevity or whatever. I don't know if it's going to last. It's not going to last. I mean, you and I are under the, we've been told our whole life, bold will hold. Thick lines, bold colors, good saturation. So I don't know, but I just wanted to give the guy props, man, because these are some pretty amazing tattoos. I don't know if they're going to be, are these tattoos going to be lifetime tattoos, or there's going to be 1 year and gone tattoos? I don't know. That's part of the thing, right?
But there's a lot of room in between those two places.
And I put this one up here because it looks like my dog.
So
props for doing a tattoo of my dog.
Without a doubt, it's not going to look like that in 3 years.
No, I mean, it's going to fade, right?
That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be gone.
No. But I think that even when almost a car wreck out front. I think that even when I first started getting tattoos, I got my first tattoo, and I loved that crisp, bright, wow, that looks awesome. And then after it healed, I was like, hey, what happened? But that was because I really didn't understand tattoos or how the skin reacts. I don't have that expectation now. But I'm going to be honest, man. When I first started getting tattoos, that was my expectation. I was like, yo, dude, what happened? Did this lady not tattoo me right?
Yeah, I get that all the time.
Yeah, because if somebody doesn't know, I don't know if that's something that maybe tattoo artists need to say to customers when they walk in the door and they've never been tattooed.
Yeah, that your skin's going to age.
That at some point after this heals, it's going to settle down and it's not going to be crisp and bright as it looks right now. My tattoos still look great. Don't get me wrong, but they don't look exactly like the day that I got them.
No, of course they don't.
None of them do.
So in a sense, that's why, almost anybody can make a new tattoo look good.
Right. Is it going to last? Is it going to hold?
Right.
I mean, those are things that you know, there are always questions that come up, but that's not going to stop us from promoting a new artist that's out there. I mean, I'm saying new. That dude might not be new. He might have been around for 20 years for all I know. It's new to me. I don't want to pick artists. Like, I actually wanted to pick an artist that I know and I've talked to multiple times. Like, Tony Savaro is one of my favorite tattoo artists of all time. I told him to his face in Reno. He happened to be in Reno. And I was like, bro, you are one of my, like, I love his work. I love the look of it. I love the style of it. It heals well. I understand that type of tattoo is not for everybody, but I dig it. I love it. And it's not traditional by any means. I don't know. And then I found this. We're going to play it.
The episode, the homie could do it cheaper. The cappuccino. Say hello to my tweaker friend. Oh, so maximum.
I just thought it was funny, dude. I'm like, bro, I find some great reels, man, that I want to throw them on our show, but for whatever reason, it won't. I can't put them into the system. It's too big.
So part of the thing with tipping, like going back to the whole thing with tipping and treating your customers a certain way.
Yeah.
So when I came to the realization as a tattooer that I was not going to reinvent the tattoo, that I can put on like a competent, well done tattoo, right? Good lines, good shading, good color.
Right.
But I'm not burning up the world. I'm not doing anything that 10,000 other competent tattooers can't do. So then what happens next? After that, it comes down to like how you treat your people.
Right.
Right?
And that's kind of what I was saying earlier. And that was one of the things that, Sailor Eddie said. I don't know if he's still in here or not, but he said that was part of the biggest lessons that Eddie and Esther taught him was to, treat your customers well. You want them to come back. Hey, how you doing? Long time no see. Welcome back. Think about this, man. I'm not talking about just tattoo shops. Any scenario. When you walk into somewhere, and this is really big in bar culture, but when you walk in somewhere and somebody goes, "Hey, man, how you doing, dude? Nice to see you, dude. How you been?" Dude, you can't tell me that don't feel good. Like, especially like if you walk into a restaurant. Well, I hope that's not the case because that means you're a fat ass and you're at the restaurant all the time. But when you walk in somewhere and they're like, "Hey, dude, how's it going, man? How you been?"
So it's the same thing with tattoo work. Like people will come in here. See, it's a crazy thing that people do think that because they got Live, Laugh, Love on them 5 or 10 years ago, that they're like your best friend. Some people do think like that, and it is funny.
Yeah.
Like, hey, do you remember me? And I always try to be like, I tattoo so many people. I don't have the best memory for people, but I recognize the work I did.
Yeah.
Like, there's a way to sort of get around it, and the other tattooers out there will probably understand this. I'm a master of making people think I know who they are when I have zero clue.
Well, let me tell you something, dude.
You ever notice how I call everybody Bud?
Well, that's why. So you probably I say dude a lot.
Yeah.
Well, that's because when I was in the music business, I couldn't remember anybody's name. I still can't. I don't know why, dude. Like, I don't know if my brain just skips over to the next thing. Like, I literally will not remember people's names, and it's horrible. And I tried to consciously do that now, but that's how I got so like into the whole. Hey, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm from the East Coast, dude. Why do you sound like a surfer? I've never even seen a goddamn surfboard.
Yeah, I'm always like, hey, Bud. Hey, what's going on, man?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's because I just have this weird brain skip where I just can't remember people's names, dude. It's horrible.
So have you ever read anything or seen any videos about like the people that they basically they work because they have they have photographic memories for people's names and faces.
Mm-hmm.
So they tend to work as personal assistants to people that are wealthy or
I can see
business
that.
people, because you walk up, you're approaching somebody on whatever, a party or whatever, and I'm behind you and I say, this is who they are, this is what they do, right? That's someone you want to talk to, and that's their whole gig, is remembering people that are important in their client's life.
So
And people get paid for that,
if I was rich, I would literally pay for that service
right?
because, funny story. So there's no secret that I had my bouts with alcohol and bad things in my past, and that all started in high school. So I was home. I was in college, maybe. No, it was after college. I went to hometown to a bar, and I'm hanging out with a couple buddies that I played football with, and this hot girl walks in. I can't even believe I'm telling this story, dude, live on the internet. Hot girl walks in, and I'm like, wow, who's that? And they were like looking at me, and I'm like, anybody want to? And nobody said, and my boy goes, he leans over, he's like, dude, you dated her in high school. And I'm like, so wait, he doesn't tell me her name. And she comes running up, and she's like, oh my God, Buck, how are you? And she has this white cashmere like sweater on.
Perfect.
And at the time, I smoked cigarettes. I don't smoke anymore. Well, when you're a little tipsy, and you get your mouth is dry. I had a cigarette in my mouth, and I went to take the cigarette out of my mouth, and it stuck to my lip, and my fingers went like that, so the cigarette went through my fingers. And she leaned in, and the cherry went right like on her forehead. So then I'm like trying to smack it off. And the cherry falls and it lands on her white sweater. Dude, and it starts burning. And I'm trying to needless to say, she's never talked to me ever again. And I'm sorry if you ever see this. You know who you are. Anyway, so Fat Cracker said, I was going to recommend that you present current tattooers doing the traditional tattoos that your History channel showcases, basically the artists that are continuing what your channel is all about. I will do that. I think that I want to try to do everybody. I want to just say, hey, look, this grabbed my attention. Man, that came out bad. I want to do everybody. I'm going to focus on anything art-wise that catches my eye as I'm flipping through the Instagram. I sounded like an old person right there. The Instagram.
The Instagram.
Dude, that guy called me and boom. Like I said, I was going to do Tony Servaro tonight. And then I was flipping through and I went, holy shit, man, this guy's work is amazing. But I will have traditional artists on there and the people that are trying to stick to the history of it.
So the thing with a lot of the photorealistic tattooers that are doing, I'm not talking about like the Nico Hurtado guys that have been tattooing for a decade plus.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've been tattooing for 3 years, like your idea of what tattoo longevity is not going to be what my idea of tattoo longevity is.
For sure.
Like they don't, how's this going to look? How's this going to look in 20 years? I mean, if they're like a 25-year-old dude, 20 years to them that's the other side of the moon.
So I was actually going to say, well, then doesn't that fall on whoever taught them? But we also know that isn't necessarily the case as well anymore, right? The traditional apprenticeship is not what it used to be. So I think that kind of nullifies my question. I don't know. I just I agree with you, Fat Cracker. But to me, I think that it's also worthy of bringing up other artists that I think are like, wow, that's amazing work, man. And it won't always look like that guy that we showed tonight. I think there'll be plenty of, traditional, neo-traditional, because that's kind of where I lean anyway. You know, I know he listens to this show, and Fat Cracker's friends with him, like dude Buddha. I don't know if I would call his work traditional. I like it though. It's in the realm of traditional. He does also do traditional, by the way. I'm just saying, like the stuff that he posts that is what he like gets his creative juices flowing. I wouldn't say that's traditional. It's traditional-esque. If that makes any sense. So,
it's a Wagner style. So I'm honestly asking this question. I was tattooing somebody today who's a friend of mine for a long time, and she's super contrary. So if I say if I say it's nighttime, she's going to say it's daytime. She has that personality.
Mm.
So we were talking about an apprentice I had that she knew, and how after this person left me, they were like, I got ripped off. He didn't teach me anything. And I was trying to explain to her that, like, part of an apprenticeship is being told, I'm not going to tell you this yet.
Right. It's in stages.
It's in stages, right? Like, and as far as how we treat the youngsters, right, in the tattoo community now, do you think it's that they're being told? Because when I told my apprentice, I'm not telling you this yet. You're still going to paint. You're still going to draw. You're still going to, that's the whole reason that he ended up leaving, because I didn't show him.
Yeah, but like you said.
Wait, but what I know I'm taking too long because my brain is like a merry-go-round. So do you think that the youngsters now are angry because they're being told, we're not telling you this yet because you haven't earned the right to know it? Or are they angry because they're not being told anything?
I think it's a valid point.
Because one is entitlement, right? Like, if you feel like you're entitled to the secrets of tattooing because you picked up a machine off Amazon, that's bullshit. But if you feel like you're not being told anything and being shut out completely, that would piss me off too.
Right.
So, I mean,
So
what do you guys think?
It needs to. They need to understand, and maybe that's just something that needs to be explained right off jump. Is that this is going to be? You're going to learn these things in layers. There's going to be stages, and you gave me a perfect example when we were talking about this earlier. You don't go to learn how to be a mechanic and jump in and expect to pull the top end off an engine and start replacing heads. You're gonna start with changing oil and brake work.
Right.
The basics. So, I don't know. I think that we as a society, man, that came out bad. I was are very into instant gratification.
Yeah, so I'm like apprenticing this guy, and he's like going home at night watching YouTube videos and saying, why aren't you teaching me this? Why aren't you teaching me this? Why aren't you teaching me that? And I was like, man, because you don't, like, I knew, like, the very fact that you think you understand from a YouTube video shows how little you understand. Right?
So Sailor Eddie said, you get to see the average tattoo from 10 feet away for 2 to 3 seconds. That's where I start judging a tattoo as far as style. There you go. I mean, that is true. Bill O'Connell said, my first tattoo was script, Live to Ride, done 43 years ago. It's hard to read now. I also have mostly bold stuff. Still looks good today. Fat Cracker said, they're not interested in what looks like 10 years later. It's all about the Instagram photo for the moment. They know it's going to look like shit in about a year. And I think that that's true as well. I mean, I think there's a lot of that's going on. Moderator Nikki just said they're a part of the instant gratification generation. There you go. Stephen Street said, I teach. So he's a teacher. And he's like, entitlement is real. And then Fat Cracker just said, and this is what I was saying, like, I know Buddha does amazing Japanese and traditional work, but he just posts his, I don't even know what category I would put it in, but we'll say, well, what Fat Cracker said. I've seen Buddha do good Japanese tattoos and amazing traditional tattoos, but he never posts it. He loves that zombie Ozzy Osbourne shit. He does do some crazy stuff.
So I actually,
but it's awesome.
I actually saw that at a tattoo convention the other day. That was a whole category, you know, like best photorealistic, best traditional, best zombie best zombie Ozzy Osbourne shit, best black and gray. It was its own.
Yeah, man. I mean, look. I think that, you know, people are gonna do tattoos they want to do, but they also need to understand not everybody that walks in the door wants that. So that's where, to me, you know, you have the people that are been tattooing for a while, that can pretty much tattoo anything that walks in the door, except for some extremes, right? Like, I think realism is an extreme.
Yeah.
You know,
like I don't tattoo portraits.
Yeah, like portraits. That is an extreme. That's something that's off the charts in its own little world.
So last night a guy comes in, right? He wants to get an Aries symbol. So I print him out the Aries symbol that he wants, and he says, well, I want it smaller, and I want it smaller, and I want it smaller. So he ends up getting a quarter-sized Aries symbol, which is this. Loop, right? It's nothing. I think a song was starting when I set the needle in, and I was done before the song was over. You know what I mean? And but he goes over to the mirror and he looks at it, and it's like, and he was a big dude. It was the tiny tattoo on the big dude trope. First tattoo, right? He looks at it and he's like stoked out of his mind about this postage-sized Aries symbol that he's just got on this huge arm. And I was just like, that's like
Good for him, though, man,
yeah.
for being excited about it.
Dude, I guarantee you that he went home last night when no one was around and took his shirt off and did this shit in the mirror with like
flexing.
Yeah, flexing with like.
Yeah, dude. Hey, come on, man. We all did it when we first got our first tattoos.
Absolutely,
dude. We were all like, oh,
I
yeah,
still do it,
dude.
man. I still do it.
So Chris Hawkins said, in my trade, we're pretty hard on apprentices for about 3 to 6 months. If they make it through, that, we'll start teaching them the real stuff. So there you go, man.
Yeah, they got to show that they got salt.
Yeah, man. And you know, I kicked this story around when you and I were talking about, you know, how we're gonna try to start focusing on being the bridge, the gap. You know what I mean? And we were talking about, like, you know, apprenticeships are the same as you prospecting. Okay? And, you know, you mud check somebody. Do you really want to be here? Do you really want to do this? Do you want to really be a part of a club or whatever? But at some point, then you got to turn it into, you know, I got to teach you to be a brother and what it's about and all that stuff. You know what I mean? I'm not telling tales outside of school. I mean, this is common knowledge stuff. I think that every industry, for the most part, has some type of apprenticeship thing. You know, you want to be a chef, dude. You're going to learn how to be the prep guy first before you become a sous chef, before you become a, you know, grill guy or whatever. You're a painter. Dude, when I got out of the music business and I couldn't get a job, I worked for a painter, and I thought that was the route I wanted to go until they would send me out every day. The dude would drop me off at this, like, freaking $5 million mansion in Princeton, you know, right by the university, with a can of putty and be like, I'll be back at 3 o'clock, dude. You got to putty every nail hole that the trim guy just did. He didn't hand me a paintbrush and be like, all right, dude, start painting that fancy $1,000 trim.
Yeah, do the trim. Cut the trim in.
It was, here's your can of putty and a radio, dude. I'll be back at 3 o'clock. The roach coach will be here at around noon.
Yeah.
But if that's what you wanted to do, so be it. See, that's so. Let me before I forget this point.
Okay.
Do you think that that's part of kids go to college now instead of trade schools? Because that's trade schools teach you that, right? Like you go to a trade school and then you take on an apprenticeship from a trade school. You go to trade school to be a machinist, right?
Mm-hmm.
You leave the trade school to serve an apprenticeship. You serve the apprenticeship maybe with a union or not, whatever, it doesn't matter. But during that apprenticeship time, you're going to school at night, you're working during the day, and you're doing all the bullshit labor stuff. And then after a couple years of serving that apprenticeship, you go and now you're a master machinist. You weren't working tool and die stuff on a lathe and all that, or a milling machine. You were cleaning the chips out of the goddamn refuse bin and, pulling coolant out, dirty coolant, that slimy, nasty coolant. Been there. So I think the expectation, because we got away from that model, is different. It's now kids think, I'm going to pay $100,000 to go to college, and I'm going to walk out of college and I'm getting an $85,000 a year plus job. Well, that doesn't necessarily work here, especially if you went to school for basket weaving.
So I think that, so you got to think, man, that 100 years ago, right? If your dad was a mechanic, you grew up in his garage, and you were probably going to be a mechanic. So you grew up in that. Or if your dad was a carpenter, if your dad was a mason, more than likely it was your family business. You came up in it, and in a sense, you were apprenticed your entire life, right? You grew up in that environment with those guys doing that sort of stuff. And I think that people were stronger for that. People were stronger when they were, it sounds cheesy, not initiated, but you know what I mean? Like when you matured from being like the pup to like a semi-dependable guy, eventually you were,
Yeah.
you were regular. Like,
Yep.
I mean, I think people were stronger, especially.
It was the same way in the music business, dude. Like, you got hired on and you moved gear. You didn't touch the board. You didn't do sound. And then as you got along a little further, man, you turned into a mic mouse. We used to call it a mic mouse. You're the guy that, like, you see the dude at a concert running around on the stage with all black?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. He's changing out mics and changing out bad mic cables. He's a mic mouse, stagehand. Then you go from that, you go to, you learn how to do monitors. And then once you figure out how to set monitors where they're not feeding back and the artist wants to kill you, then all right, then we'll teach you how to mix front of house. I mean, it was like you did it in stages, dude. I can almost give you an example for, 20 different industries that you got to go through it before you get handed the golden goat.
It's the same thing with when we're talking about like a personal pet peeve of mine. I need to be paid for anything that doesn't directly involve tattooing.
And Jason talked about that during his one of his reels, and when I brought it up during the interview, man.
And his point was true. Like, you're going to have to learn how to keep your shop clean.
Yeah, there's a rhyme and a reason behind everything. And I think that's where I'm going with this is, like, when you're doing those lower stages of whatever industry you're doing, you're going to go, this is some bullshit. What am I doing this for? But then if you look at the long run, there's actually a rhyme and a reason to it. And, sometimes you don't see it right then and there, but eventually you will. Just like, I mean, again, I'm not telling tales out of school, but, you're getting clean and sober, dude, and you sit down with somebody that's working with you trying to get you clean and sober, and you work some steps. You're sitting there working those steps going, this is bullshit, dude. What am I doing this for? But if you really want to get clean and sober, you're going to do it. And there's a reason why. You might not find out till later, but there's a reason.
And
got to wait till the magic happens.
And I think that's a big part of it. Like, they don't, I mean, it makes us sound old and all, but, like, I don't think people that are younger now have any concept of later.
Dude, when we were kids, man, we all thought we knew everything. I mean, dude, I know when I was 20 years old, you couldn't have told me anything. I knew everything.
But when we were 20 years old, right, if I got mouthy enough with the wrong dude saying I knew everything, I was going to probably be shown pretty quickly
Yeah, there's repercussions for how you're toned.
Right.
I mean, you know, I think that goes back. We're going down a path we don't need to go down, but that goes to parenting, dude. You know, when you were a kid, if you talk back to your mom, would your mom paste you in the mouth?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Unless well, not. Yeah.
So, you know, man, dude, we can go on and on about this, dude. All I know is I feel like if we could try to show some love and be like, hey, look, man, we're not preaching at you. We're trying to help you. It'll go a long way. That's
Absolutely.
Chris Hawkins said exactly, Buck, if you can't lean on them to know if they'll stand up, I'm not wasting my time. There's something to be said about that. Bill O'Connell said, I went to work in a custom motorcycle shop at 20 years old. I did not make a lot of money, but I learned to paint and help build custom Harleys and Triumphs, like going to school and making some money. Yeah, man. I think that, you know, maybe one of these days we will go back to, you know, where trade schools are important and people will realize that we need those guys that are doing these jobs, man. And, you know, apprenticeships are, you know, invaluable. Right? Invaluable.
Invaluable.
Yeah.
You know what Gil Monty said about apprenticeships? He said, he said something like, I can teach you to tattoo in a minute. But what I'm teaching you in your apprenticeship is how to be a tattoo man. How to be a tattoo man. Right? How to be the dude. What did he said? Who's the only dude that rock stars envy? The tattoo man. That was the only dude that rock stars envy. I'm going to teach you to be that.
There you go.
There's something to be said for that. Like, I'm going to teach you to hold yourself. I'm going to teach you to talk to people. I'm going to teach you to have respect. Like, there's something to be said for that.
Right.
And you can't, you know, the kids have to be willing to learn. There's a thing that happened that's weird in our society in general. Older people began to, like, envy younger people. Like, younger people don't want to grow up anymore and mature to be older people. Younger people are like, we're what it is. We're young. You know?
Yeah, but at your age right now,
Right.
do you feel like your age? Mentally and
No.
not physically, but mentally.
I'm only as old as my girlfriend is.
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude.
So as long as I got a girlfriend in her 20s,
I mean,
I'm good.
I feel like me personally, you know, I don't feel like I'm, you know, in my 50s. I'm only 51, but I don't feel like I'm in my 50s. I feel like I'm still younger. My body would argue
Would disagree.
That.
My
Yeah.
body would.
But you know, I look at it sometimes and I go, well, I'm nowhere near the level of what my parents were at my age.
Right.
Now, I'm also unfortunately at the point in my life where I've actually outlived my dad. How old my dad was, so I don't have any comparison. But if I look at my mom, you know, I think to myself, well, she was way more mature and had her shit together than I do. And then I had that discussion with her, and she was like, I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Yeah, because you don't know how you appear on the outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there might be a circus there might be a circus going on in here with, like, clowns and monkeys and stuff. But on the outside, you may appear to be like, you know?
Yeah, dude, I have a full-blown circus going on in this
Speaking of my girlfriend.
head.
Hi.
Stephen Street said, trade or university? Trade every day, and I say that as a graduate. There you go, man. I have a college degree as well, and I agree with that. Chris Hawkins said, trades have been good to me, Stephen. Yeah, man. I mean, look, dude, Chris Hawkins has a successful business that he does, and, you know, that worked out for him. It worked out for a lot of people, dude. I don't know, man. We're gonna try to go. You know, we're not necessarily changing the channel at all. We're just gonna try to change our live stream around a little bit and be a little bit more positive. That's all.
Yeah,
So we're not going to get away from the history and what it means to us and what all that other stuff. But I feel like we need to start lifting up some of the younger guys to say, hey, look, we're here to support you, not bash you. That's all. You know, we're going to try to move on with some different things. I'm even going to try, you know, hopefully next week we'll be doing our live stream on Kick simultaneously with YouTube. I'm trying some different things, man. I'm going to try to make our live streams look a little bit slicker and see what we can do.
Absolutely.
You know, I have all these grandiose plans in my head, and I just can't get my shit together. So we'll see what happens.
What did Elvis Costello say? Welcome to the working week.
Yeah, man.
I mean,
like dude, I feel bad that you know, it took me this long to get that Jay Brown Northwest Tattoo Museum video out, but you know, it is what it is, dude. I got a job and
I mean, I got 10 things. I got 10 things to do every day, and I have time to do 7 of them.
Yeah,
maybe.
You know, Mike Irons was in here last week or the week before, and totally blanked. I'm like, oh my god, I interviewed him as well when I was at Lady Luck, so that'll be coming out too soon. All right, guys. I hope you have a great week. Be safe.
Stay safe.
We will catch you all next week. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Peace.